we get to the Fallout Elimination Chamber, we have to talk about Sting's last match at AEW Revolution. The Icon Sting, legendary career, a career spanning. See the action figure from Lewis there. The legendary career from Sting, spanning from 1985 all the way from NWA, Jim Crockett Promotions, New Japan Pro Wrestling, the franchise of WCW, the pillar, kind of like the Undertaker for WCW, kind of just like the respected veteran figure in WCW. You think about the battles with Flair, Vader, Hogan, Macho Man, Bret Hart when he came, just the endless amounts of battles that Sting has had in WCW. From there goes to TNA Impact. Kind of one of the only reasons why I kind of tuned into TNA Impact, because Sting, we haven't seen him in so long. You know, he wasn't there for the WWF invasion. He wasn't there for that. Went to TNA, revitalized his career there, gave them a boost in the arm when they desperately needed it. Finally makes his way to WWE. We all know how that ended with the injury. And then this last arc, where we thought it was going to end with that injury, has this crazy arc in AEW. Teaming
3 years.
Literally 3 years. It's so long. Well, Sting is what, 65?
Stinger.
And was still taking gnarly bumps, being a mentor to Darby Allin. We saw him end his career with the tag team match against the Young Bucks. What do you guys think about that? Sting's career, Sting's last match, and overall what Sting meant to the business?
Well, Sting meant a lot to the business, especially pre WCW in the Jim Crockett Promotions days with Ric Flair. You know, you talk about that how he started out with that surfer Sting gimmick. obviously that was kind of before all of our times, but you know, you watch some of those matches. You know, the Clash of the Champions match against the 45-minute match with Flair that was at the Greensboro Coliseum. I've watched that match back a couple of times, which is just a classic as far as, you know, old school wrestling goes. And then, you know, then you fast forward towards the more modern 90s of WCW, when the NWO came in, and then Sting kind of became an afterthought. But then he flipped Surfer Sting into Crow Sting, which is the currently the most popular version of his character that he still used throughout both TNA and WWE. And everybody always says that, you know, Sting is the one guy that nobody has anything negative to say about. And honestly, when you see the way he is, in whether it's a podcast interviews or when he's on TV as a character, you can just genuinely see that Sting is a very good guy, you know. And you know, going into this whole run with AEW, I remember the first match. His first match was that tag team cinema match he had with Darby Allin when they faced Team Taz. Yeah. And when you see that match, and then you see all the other matches he had after, I think I saw a record. So he went undefeated in AEW with Darby, 29-0. Mm-hmm. The only thing I wish is that, you know, that outside of Darby, because obviously Darby got the biggest rub out of anybody being with Sting, but I almost wish that he kind of gave the rub to somebody going out, like not necessarily. I understand why he retired undefeated, why they were going for that, you know, kind of going with the happy ending to the story. But I just feel as though, just based upon how professional wrestling has been throughout the years, when the aging veteran is going out, you know, he puts somebody over when he's going out. I feel like that's something that throughout the years shouldn't be interrupted. But that's just a small nitpick.
Hey, the Undertaker didn't go out that way.
He never ended the streak, though.
Yeah, streak. He did lose though, so it's not like
we're not allowed to talk about that.
Yeah, but we are gonna miss Sting. We are gonna miss Sting. I mean, he is a crazy old man. I don't know what if Darby gave him some shit or did something got into his head with some of these bumps and such that Sting was doing, especially going into this his last match. First off, when we talk about his last match, when we talk about the production of it, like the beginning of the match, they had like that little production, little small production video where he's sitting down in the theater and he's looking at all of his like his highlights and everything from his career. Stuff like that makes me really wish that this had happened in WWE because if it had happened in WWE, the production at least of that would have been 100 times better. But the match itself, very, very physical, very, very hardcore. Like the one thing that I noticed, and Jim Cornette noticed it too, because I listened to his review of the match. It's like everything that Sting was known for, you didn't really see in this match. Like when you think about throughout Sting's career, when have you known? When have we really known Sting to do do bumps from the top rope or to use glass in his matches and stuff like that? Like when you think about Sting, you don't think about those things. But
no.
you don't necessarily think about those things. Now, obviously, he had his fair share of hardcore matches, bloody matches. The first match that comes to my mind is the match that he had with Cactus Jack in WCW during that feud when he was Surfer Sting. But other than that, when you think about Sting, you don't really think about like the hardcore aspect of his character. I don't even think he really had a hardcore aspect to be.
He's the prototypical babyface.
Yeah, he was always the prototypical babyface.
Mr. America.
Yeah, but in talking about the match itself, there's a huge debate right now about Daniel. I'm assuming that with the clips, of course, that you've seen the Darby Allin glass spot.
Yes, me and Lewis were talking about that before we got on.
Yeah, exactly. And I know there's been a debate on social media on whether or not that spot took away from the match. Me personally, it all depends upon who you ask. Because if you ask the hardcore AEW fans, they'll say it didn't. But then if you ask casuals or people like Jim Cornette or Eric Bischoff, they'll say that spot took away from the match entirely. But I don't think it did. I don't think it took away from them. I don't think it took away from the match.
If you've been watching AEW, if you've been watching Darby Allin, if you've been watching these Sting matches, that's what they do. They do those hardcore spots. So
yeah, exactly. And with Darby, I'm honestly getting to a point where it's just like, what's next, man? Because the way that he's been booked with all these stunts and stuff, and the fact that he keeps just getting up and keep going, it's just like, where do you go after a spot like that? Like how much more damage can Darby Allin?
I think that
he's basically Wolverine.
Exactly. He's like, what more can you do now? What now if you do a spot like that off of a ladder and you're just doing it on top and you're just doing it through a table, now people are just gonna look at you and say, okay, we've seen you go through worse shit. So
I think the best thing to ask is to not ask that question. What's next for Darby Allin? Yeah. I think that's the best question. I think that's the way we preserve him. Like, just keep it here. Just keep doing this stuff. We're fine with this stuff. Like,
I mean, my thing with him is like, it's part of all his persona. I mean,
yeah.
They've shown the story how he was in the car with his drunk uncle who was driving drunk, and like they crashed, and he could have died. And it's kind of like this whole. I feel like it's kind of a little bit of like a mystique, whereas like, look, he can take these crazy bumps and he still goes. Like we've literally seen him get thrown down concrete stairs. That spot right there was. Like, I'm like, how many people have we ever seen jump literally from, even if the ladder was just like outside the ring, this was inside the ring, up top to the floor outside.
Like the glass stuff with Kenny Omega and John Moxley, like they were just slamming each other through the glass at regular height. Yeah. He jumped off the Jeff Hardy ladder. That's what it's called, right? Like, through the glass. Like, that could have ended badly. Like, that's the thing that I think, like, that could have ended badly.
Very.
But in talking about, but aside from that, I can understand like the story that they were trying to tell though, because after that, Darby was essentially out of the match, and it pretty much was Sting 2-on-1. which at times it did get a little bit ridiculous. Like I think when he got all those when he got like slammed through the glass, got slammed through the table, and then he's getting up like I'm Sting. and I get that. Like it's show business. It's his last match. Let him go out strong. And that's why in that case it was fine. It was acceptable. Now if somebody was doing that on the regular, then there would be a problem. But for these circumstances, I think it was fine. It was fine. But it was what it was as far as match quality goes. I'm glad Sting did get that send off. It was also unfortunate that if you were watching the pay-per-view live, he attempted to say a couple of words, but then the pay-per-view feed cut off right in the middle.
Come on, Tony.
I mean, to be fair, I was watching it live, and when they finished up, Darby did get on the mic and say that we have 3 more minutes live on the air pay-per-view, and this thing was kind of rambling on and on, but he knew that like they were about to go off the air, and Darby was telling them like, "Yo, dude, it's about to be off the air, wrap it up." So Sting knew, but I don't get why people have such an outrage over it, because it's just like, yo. Think of it this way: for the fans in Greensboro, that speech is for them.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, all you guys, they're gonna record it. They'll put it on social media later, and then you can watch it and live through it. Then, do you really need to? Do you really think that the difference? Do you really believe that if you watch the difference between watching it live and watching it on social media, you're gonna feel anything different? I don't think so, because if you respect Sting as a talent, it shouldn't matter.
If you watch WCW at any point, whether it was Nitro or their pay-per-views, Tony Schiavone saying, "We're out of time, ladies and gentlemen. We're going off the air," and you didn't see what happened in the ring and stuff like that, and their pay-per-views, and famously Halloween Havoc 1998, we didn't get to see the end of Goldberg and DDP, so they had to show it the next night.
Oh wow!
On Monday Night Nitro, leading it up.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm pretty sure Tony Khan could have did that tonight. I didn't see the beginning of AEW Dynamite, but that would have been a nice, cool thing to do. Show his last speech on TV. That would have been cool. But overall,
so they did show the speech. It didn't start the show, but eventually throughout the show, as like in between matches, they did show like the whole speech.
Okay, that's cool. All right, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Lewis, on Sting's last match career, 65.
So it's funny. It's like I've always known Sting. Like I wasn't somebody who grew up watching a lot of WCW. I knew it was on, but I was always watching WWE or WF at the time. But then just seeing like the gear, the makeup, and everything that was the coolest thing ever. And obviously, like like Brian said, the Crow, like. I remember that being such a huge movie, and then just like the inspiration from that was just like, and then the games and everything. I was just like, Sting. I didn't even know anything about Sting, but he just looks so cool, and I just always wanted to play like his character and everything. So, but I thought his run in AEW was great. The fact that literally we said at his age had a 3-year run, but honestly, his matches. I don't know. I feel like they weren't like kind of like in WWE where they would use veterans and you're just like, he's just gonna do 1 or 2 things and that's it. Like he was really going at it. Like you could tell Sting was like, I'm gonna put everything I got into this run, and just from his persona and just like I was talking about Darby, just that mystique even though him is just more of a character, but he also uses the face paint. Obviously just always worked really well with them, and like it never felt like boring, I guess. As much as I'm not gonna sit here and say I watched AEW like consistently, but like every time they actually had a match, it was actually a good match.
He never felt out of place.
Exactly.
That's what we
exactly it. It's not like seeing somebody that stop doing this. Like it was not like a Goldberg type thing or even Hulk Hogan come on, why no? Or Flair. It's just like, dude, like stop it, no more. Like you've passed it. You don't need to do any more. But Sting like really had a great run, which I thought AEW handled very well. The match itself, I think it might have gone on a little too long. And me watching the pay-per-view, I'm not going to lie, I honestly forgot that it was the last match. Just because they were talking about Sting throughout the whole night. And then I was like, I really wanted to see the Samoa Joe, the triple threat. And then I was like, this is a good match. And then I was like, oh, is the pay-per-view? I was like, oh, shit, I forgot about Sting's match.
The reason why we're all here.
I know. And it's crazy. Yeah, and even like the first couple, throughout the whole night, people, geared tributes to Sting and stuff. But I did like how his sons actually came out dressed like him. That was a really cool moment. That was really sick. Mm-hmm. And look, one of them was dressed as Wolfpack Sting and everything, so I thought it was really cool. Yeah, towards the end, it's Sting, he kicking out on one after like their signature move and then going through a table and getting right back up, just adding more to his mystique, but I think it did go a little too long for my taste. But, he's going to do it for the fans and, he gave him a show. So I thought it was a great send-off. And yeah, just because it got cut off like at the end, I mean, we're in the day of social media where you can see anything anywhere. Somebody's going to record it or whatever. So people complain, oh, going to like. They also have a certain amount of time that they can run the pay-per-view, and not going to be like, oh, we're just going to give him an extra free hour to talk about whatever the hell he wants. Like, come on,
Tony, pay the bill, Tony, pay the bill.
Definitely great run with Sting, and
but in that case, I think one of the reasons why people were complaining about it the most is because when you see AEW on TV, they always go past 10 o'clock. Like they'll finish the show at 10:05, 10:15 sometimes. So some people thought, well, for pay-per-view, why can't you do the same thing? But I think it's a different.
That has to be. They probably get a certain amount of time to run there.
It just brings them back to the old WCW days where things just got cut off early and you didn't see what happened, and hopefully you have to see it. It isn't like that day and age, of course, what you guys were saying with social media and stuff like that. So definitely looking back at Sting's career in terms of what he's meant, he's always just been consistent, right? Like even when he's been given in my eyes, some shitty booking, some bad booking, some bad hands that were dealt, and famously Starrcade 97 with the whole botch at the end of that match, which was supposed to be the accumulation of the Crow, Sting, and Hollywood Hogan, and they had to redo the match 1 month later. But overall, just what Sting has been is consistent, and as I said, with
Eric Bischoff skin, because Sting showed up there tanned, so he didn't look right. There's a whole listen to Bischoff's podcast as to why that decision was made for them to botch the finish or have a botched finish like that.
Are you kidding me?
That's what I wanted to talk about when he saw Sting that day. When he saw Sting that the day of the pay-per-view, he didn't look tan. He didn't look like himself. So he thought that not that maybe going forward with Sting as the champion wasn't the best decision. Hogan saw him. You already know with Hulk Hogan and his politics back then, with him being the champion, how that played a role. And then they decided they were gonna go with a certain finish. And then I don't know what happened. There was miscommunication amongst the ref and everybody about what was supposed to happen. Like there's a whole documentary worth of shit about that Bash at the Beach stuff. Whole podcast worth of shit.
All right, Eric Bischoff aside, just as we were talking, I can't believe that crap. But as in AEW, Sting never felt out of place. In WWE, when he made his return, he didn't feel out of place. TNA, he revitalized that whole company in TNA. In WCW, obviously, he reinvented himself down there with the Crow, and he was able to go to the Wolfpack. He's able to have great matches with Benoit, Bret Hart, all these guys that he's kind of touched. And when you think about, again, when we talk about people who just have longevity, the ability to touch different types of talent. I think Sting even wrestled Vampiro in WCW when he was there. So it's like in his last match with the Young Bucks, which people had a problem with him facing the Young Bucks and stuff like that. So
yeah, but that's what he wanted, though. That's why.
Yeah,
That's why I understand why people are upset.
Right.
That's what he wants to do. Then let him do that.
Yeah. That he has the right to pick his last opponent in that manner, which was cool. You know what I mean? But just to think about Sting and just think about consistency and what he did in WCW with Flair, obviously the arch rival of the Four Horsemen and all of that, and just greatness, man. And it's just good to see that he got out not hurt on his terms and in one piece, and to give that rep to Darby Allin and the Young Bucks for participating in that. Can't speak enough about Sting, man, and what he's done for the business and what he's done upholding his part, right? Like, we've never heard, as you guys said earlier, starting it off, we never heard anything bad about Sting. Mm-hmm. Never. Like, I can't recall anyone saying anything bad about anybody, and that's not usually the case. No one said he was strong-headed or anything like that. He usually did business. It didn't, whether it was good or bad for him, he usually did business. So, kudos for him in his career. Salute to him. Can't speak enough about Sting, man.
Fuck you, Vince McMahon. Because you had this man in 2014. Well, we're talking about 9 years ago, 2014 to 2015. You had this man on your roster, had all types of opportunities, all types of matchups, all types of things you could have did with them, and you fucked them over so many times. You fucked them over at that year's WrestleMania.
WrestleMania 31.
You didn't give everybody the match with Undertaker that everybody wanted. You had them lose.
I mean, we don't know where it would have went because we had the injury with Seth Rollins at, I believe, is not a champion. So,
but wasn't it? What was the match at WrestleMania? Wasn't it him versus Triple H and Shawn Michaels?
No, it was him against Triple H. You remember that little story that they told with Triple H, Sting and Triple H, that kind of turned into a goddamn Monday Night War rehash.
Yeah, but like the fact that they had Sting lose, I thought was like the worst call.
That's the worst thing
ever. There was no reason why Triple H
that was a disservice because Triple H didn't need the win.
No,
WCW
is long gone. We know that, but this is a goddamn Sting.
There is a specific reason why. It's a dumbass reason, but apparently, because you remember later on in that night how Triple H had that little segment with Ronda Rousey and Stephanie and The Rock.
Yeah.
So that originally that was going to be a tag match next year. So they were trying to book towards it, but then Rock pulled out because of his movie schedule. So ended up being for nothing.
You want to know what? I have an issue with The Rock because he keeps ruining shit.
Yeah.
What he right? Because he wants to do Hollywood. It's either you're in or you're out. You're either in or you're out. Any involvement with The Rock going forward, if
he's a board member, so he's in.
If we have to hear about his movie schedule ever again, get him out of here. Don't do it. Just don't do it. You're telling me The Rock's involvement at WrestleMania 31 with a little segment was the reason why we didn't get Undertaker versus Sting? Like, come on.
Well, that's the reason why Triple H went over, because he was going into a new program literally on the same night.
Was he? Was he? Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
All right, man. Like, that's terrible. But
yeah,
and we don't know where they were going, because I think at Night of Champions, I thought there was a strong case Sting wins the title. Going into that Night of Champions, before that injury, I'm like, is Sting going to win the championship? Like, I was so gung-ho that Sting was going to win. And the injury, how he went out, I was just like, damn, that sucked.
Granted, I know injuries happen, and obviously they maybe probably had more stuff for him if that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But it just but the injury just adds to the fact that it's pretty much like the cherry on top of a shitty run. Because it already started off bad. I mean, the debut itself was the only good part.
That was the only good thing about that.
That was the only good part of that run. Everything else that came after the debut was just trash.
Why did he even wrestle Seth in the first place?
Oh, because I remember didn't Seth have both titles?
Yeah, he did, and he had
and they made that stupid ass statue for him, and then. They made a dumbass statue with Seth holding both titles, and then they revealed it. And then when they did the reveal, Sting was actually under the the thing where the statue was, and then they just made the story after that.
That was dope. I like that. But just overall, you're telling me that The Rock prevented Sting and Undertaker? That's just disgusting. But overall, Sting had a legendary career from 1985 to 2024. That's a long ass time. Like, that's a long ass time. And you want to know, going backtracking, that is Vince's fault. Because when the WCW WWF merger happened, you should have did everything in your power to make sure Sting came on board. I don't care what money was on the table or whatever it was. You should have matched.
He also didn't want to come over either.
I mean, he said that he didn't want to come over because how they treated Booker T initially when he first came on TV, and he was like, "I didn't want to. You treating us like that. I didn't want to come over." So I mean, it worked out for Sting, and I think that's what kind of didn't give us the drought of Sting, like kind of like how we feel with Flair and Hogan. Like, all right, get off TV. You had your last match, end it, and then we see them come back again. Sting, you really didn't have that. You know what I mean? Like, Sting was kind of out of that WWF, WCW invasion type angle. He didn't join TNA, I think, until like 2006-07. So we didn't get tired of Sting, was what I'm saying. We didn't get to see him on TV all the time. We missed Sting, had a chance to miss Sting and have him come back. But just a great performance from Sting on his way out. Kudos to Sting, man. Salute. Hopefully he's able to go out. And I thought it was cool that he came out with his sons showing each version of Sting. I thought that was cool as well. Great for Sting, man. Great for Sting. Let's look at the rest of the AEW